we have some big games coming up on Friday night. Sweet 16 action. This is one of the best slates you could possibly find. We have Rick Pitino. We have Dan Hurley. We obviously have Tom Izzo. We have John Shire. We have all these big name coaches, Dusty May on Friday night. How much more excited are you about the Friday night slate than you were about the Thursday night slate?
Oh man, in hindsight, if you had asked me this question before the Thursday games, I might have been able to give you Thursday as a reasonable answer, or at least say it's a 50-50. But going into the late games on Thursday, the early games were so good. And I was like, those weren't even the two games that I was all that interested in. I mean, of course I was, but not as much as Arkansas, Arizona, Houston, Illinois. I was like, this will be great. And then it's just two blowouts. And I ended up going to bed with 5 minutes left in the games because I was like, I know what's going to happen. What's the point here? So with a blank slate, with us going into Friday, yeah, this is a pretty elite lineup. Like you said, you got the 2-1 seeds. You got a 2-3 with Michigan State and UConn. Iowa State, I think, is going to dismantle Tennessee, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. You've got the coaching pedigree. It's just going to be a really fun day of basketball.
Definitely. So it starts at 7:10 p.m. St. John's versus Duke. This one's getting a lot of attention. Rick Pitino versus John Shire. Duke, best team in the land all season. They're starting to fall apart a little bit. Haven't necessarily looked great till the second half of the TCU game in the second round. Duke is a 6.5-point favorite tonight. Total set at 140.5. Grant, how you feeling about this game?
I'm feeling, I'll talk about expectations as we head into this game. My expectation is the week off for Duke, not week, but the break between the weekends. My expectation is that will help Duke tremendously because Duke has been the best team in the country all season long. Some Arizona people are going to say Arizona, some Michigan people are going to say Michigan, but the fact that Duke went to Michigan and beat them, I think if you're trying to distinguish them, that's the separator. That's what tips it in Duke's favor. So they clearly were not playing up to that standard. We know that. They were down by double digits against Siena. It was really close. They had to come back first half against TCU. They're not playing anywhere up to their standard. They refound a little bit of who they were in that second half against the TCU. And if you're going to play one good half of basketball, make it your last half so you can take some of that confidence, but then also get the hard coaching from John Shire, get back to the basics. What do we have to do to win this game? On the flip side, St. John's, my expectation for them going into this game is they're going to scrap, they're going to scratch, they're going to claw, they're going to do everything they can to make this an ugly, nasty style of basketball game. And if they can do that, they can win within the fine margins. They can win at the end. Now, against Kansas, a lot of people are going to say, look how bad Duke is playing. Let's not forget, St. John's only shot 36% from the field against Kansas. So it's not like they were playing that well either, but it was their defense, it was their intensity, their attention to detail, and then they executed down the stretch. They make the game-winning shot, and they get to the opportunity to play Duke here. So my expectations for this game, two teams coming in on very different ends of the spectrum, but both teams should be feeling pretty confident going into this one.
Yeah, I agree. And my biggest thing is for St. John's, how are you going to win this game, right? Because you look back on the last one against Kansas, and a few things went your way in that game that probably are not going to go your way moving forward, right? I look at Bryce Hopkins, he was 6 of 9 from 3-point range. Like, he hasn't been 6 of 9 from 3-point range all season. He hasn't made 6 threes all season in the game. You needed Bryce Hopkins to make 6 threes for you to barely win against Kansas. He kind of fell apart late, allowed Kansas to climb back in the game. And we know the Jayhawks have been inconsistent. What I'm looking for Duke tonight is, how did the week off impact you, or the 4 days, whatever it was? Are you going to be ready to play a basketball game tonight? Because in the first 2 games of the tournament, you really weren't. Like, you started slow. The first game obviously was a big scare against Siena. And then the second game, you started extremely slow against TCU. So what does the week off look for you, or what does the week off do for you moving forward? And then Caleb Foster, is he going to play in this game? I still don't think we know exactly if he's going to be on the court here. If he is, that makes a huge difference for Duke. But if he is on the floor and he's coming off an injury where he hasn't played in a while, how is he going to play? Is it really going to make that much of a difference? So I think St. John's can match Duke's physicality, but part of me feels, and don't get me wrong, Arizona has been a juggernaut all season, and I think a lot of people expected them to roll last night. You were either on Arkansas like heavily, or you were on Arizona heavily.
Should have been on the over heavily.
Should have been on the over heavily for sure. I mean, the points were crazy, but if you're looking at this game here, Duke has the ability, like they have the athletes to just outplay St. John's like Arizona did last night. So it wouldn't surprise me if Duke wins by double digits in this game as well.
Yeah, going over to Ken Palm, which is the college basketball Bible. I know there's a group of people that like to talk down on Ken Palm, which is the strangest thing in the world to me. It's like if you look at any sport out there and you look at one website or analysis, whatever, like Ken Palm is the gold standard of that. St. John's being the defensive team that they are, we talk about them as a defensive team because of the disparity between their defense and their offense. That's normally how it goes. It does, like, if you have the 30th offense and the 150th defense, well, you're an offensive team. Even though you might be playing a team with a better offense, but they're probably just more balanced than you are. So I'm saying this because St. John's the defensive team, 8th in defense, 41st in offense at Ken Palm. Duke is the number 1 defensive team in the country. Like, let's not lose sight of this. Duke is a defensive team. They just so happen to also be 7th in offense. And right now they've dropped to 3rd in Ken Palm. Things have moved around since the start of the tournament. But, we talk about St. John's like they're going to go out there, they're going to make this difficult. Well, what if Duke makes it difficult for St. John's? Because, again, they shot 36% from the field, only 31% from 3. And to your point, that's with a player who had 6 threes going 6 and 9 from 3. And that's just not going to happen again. So I do think that there's absolutely a path for this to be a low-scoring, ugly, sloppy style of game. But even if that happens, Duke is not out of it. And I think that's the difference between these teams. There's really only one way St. John's can win, in my opinion. There's a multitude of ways that Duke can win.
Yeah, St. John's has to make this game really ugly, make their shots, and just make Duke uncomfortable. And they have the capability to do that. But if Duke gets out in transition and they start playing the full court and they use their athletes, I think Duke is the clear-cut favorite to not only win this game and cover in this game. So I'm going to trust that Duke's 4 days off or 5 days off help them to a point where they will be ready to play basketball tonight.
I am also going to be taking Duke. I don't know if I'm going to end up betting them at -6.5, but I am still confident they'll win this game. Had them picked in my bracket. Nothing is changing there.
Now, I will say this, that if the Johnnies make this a close game, I wouldn't be surprised. But that's going to tell me that Duke was not ready to play, and they just look exactly like they do in the first 2 weekends of the tournament. If Duke plays their game, they are winning this basketball game and winning by double digits.
Yeah, I could see it being close too. And I mean, if I had to take a side, I would probably take St. John's at +6.5, just because I do think defense is going to win out more so than offense in this game. So I could see this being like a 68-63 sort of deal.
And the biggest thing that I want in this basketball game is for the Johnnies to win. I want nothing more than the Johnnies to win, because that sets up a match with UConn or Michigan State. I want the UConn rematch. But we'll talk about that game in a minute. We're going in time order here. Alabama versus Michigan. The Wolverines 8.5-point favorites. This line was down from 10.5 down to 8.5 now. So it is moving in favor of the Crimson Tide. Total sit at 173.5. Just to give you a little perspective, the St. John's total was 140.5. So 33.5 points higher in this basketball game. Grant, how are you feeling about the Wolverines and the Tide?
I wish I had a broom nearby. I don't. So you just have to imagine that I'm holding a broom, but sweep, get them out of here. This is going to be a whitewash. This is going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be Michigan destroying Alabama, just like in the college football playoff a couple of years ago. I think that game went to overtime, so I don't think it was actually a demolition. But this is a Michigan 106 to 88. It's a super high scoring game. Alabama wants it to become a track meet, but Michigan also does not mind playing with pace. I mean, they're 22nd in the country in pace, Alabama 4th. So expect lots of possessions, expect lots of points. The over-under is set at 173.5. I want to say the over-under was like 186 for the Arkansas-Arizona game, if I'm not mistaken, and the over cash is there. So, yeah, I think it's a similar sort of deal that plays out, but Michigan is just so much better in every way.
Are you worried that the line is dropping in favor of the Tide?
Not at all. I view this as people liked a lot. Alabama's a popular upset pick, and when you're just making a bracket, because they can score a lot of points, which means they can win games. So people are looking at that. They're looking at just the line value. Like, it's shocking to see a 10.5 and 11.5 point line. So they are taking it. They're failing to consider that the more points, the more possessions that you have, each point is less valuable. So with an over-under, with an over-under of what I say was 173, and then you go to UConn, Michigan State, where the over-under is 134. A 10-point line in this Alabama-Michigan State game is like a 6 or a 5-point line in the Michigan State UConn game. So we have to remember the value of numbers here. There's going to be a lot of points. Michigan's going to score a lot. Alabama's going to score a lot, but Michigan is a much better basketball team.
Yeah, I think Michigan's just going to wear Alabama down. And Alabama has the three-point shooters to keep this game competitive. If they're making their threes and they're shooting 50% of their shots from three, they're going to be in the game. But Michigan's 2-point defense, their 2-point offense is amazing. Adai Mar is fantastic. Yaxel Lendenborg's great. Elliot Cadeau, sometimes he looks like he doesn't know how to play basketball, but other times he looks pretty damn good. So if all those guys are gelling, and there's no reason that Michigan does not win this game, and they should win it by double digits and cover here and move on to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, now, Elliot Cadeau, quote of the tournament so far, I think it was the tournament, when he said that teams haven't seen 3 NBA All-Stars on one team together. That's definitely the quote of the tournament, because I don't know that there's 3 NBA players on that roster, but it's a different conversation.
I mean, this is the thing, like, none of these guys are projected to go super high, are they? Maybe Lendenborg?
Lendenborg is projected to go like 13th to 15th, I believe. And then Mara is in like the mid to early 20s.
I wouldn't. Mara is like, see, I look at Mara. He's very good, obviously, but he gets pushed around a little bit down there. Merez Johnson Jr. is the real star of the team, but like, he could stay in college. All these guys could stay in college longer too, which is crazy to think about.
I like Mara. I actually think he's the NBA. It's more skill based now, so I think there's a home for him.
He kind of looks like Chet. Like, he's just skinny white boy.
Yeah, I mean, but Chet's an NBA champion.
Chet's very good. Chet's very good, but skinny white boy. So, Grant, we move into the
wait, who you got covering?
I already told you. I said Michigan. They're gonna dog walk them. They're gonna take Alabama out back and finish them off, Grant.
Yeah, put them out their misery. Okay, we're on the same page.
I'm so excited about this next game. And again, the start times, like the NCAA has really got to fix the start times here. Like, we need to be starting these games at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Put your bad game at 5. Put your next worst game at 5:30. Then do your next game at 7:30, 8, and then the next start time at like 9. Like, we should not be starting the second game, like the second round of games at 9:45 with the following tip at 10:10, knowing that the games are going to get pushed back. So the first one's not going to start till 10 and the second one's not going to start till 10:30. It's ridiculous.
And a lot of the time they start at the same time too. Like, let us, I don't want to have to watch everything in the double box. Let me watch one game and then watch the next one.
Definitely. So we have the biggest game of the night, the most competitive game of the night. It will be the most fun game of the night. We have the UConn Huskies, Dan Hurley's Huskies, -1.5 against Michigan State. Tom Izzo's Spartans here. Total set at 134.5. It was like 1.5 for UConn at opening. It jumped up to 2.5 for the Huskies. Now it's down to 1.5 again. So line's moving around a little bit, but majority of the bets and money are on the Huskies right now, but the line is dropping back towards Michigan State. So Grant, I think we're going to be in different spots on this game, but this is a true toss-up.
Yeah, so we previewed this matchup, I think, earlier in the week. If you go to KenPom, which again, just the gold standard for college basketball, these teams are very, very close to each other. Michigan State 9th in net rating, UConn 10th in net rating. Defensively, it's 13 versus 11, favored UConn. Offensively, it's 23 versus 30, favor Michigan State, which is actually funny considering that years past you. Huh?
It's crazy. That's crazy to me. And I know it's close, but UConn's got so many scores that Michigan State, I feel like, doesn't have. But anyways, that's besides the point.
No, it's funny. It shouldn't be that way if you judge them by like their recent seasons, because Michigan State has been the defensive team and UConn's had such an innovative offense. UConn is balanced. I mean, the guy who's like, I guess, liable to have the largest offensive impact is Jeremy Fears, just because he basically averages a triple-double with assists, which is crazy for college basketball. It's crazy for the NBA, but it's crazy for college basketball. So, I mean, he could go get you like 20 and 12. Now, he has not shot the ball well at all in this tournament. In the first game, he's only 2 of 6 from the field, obviously 33%. And then against Louisville, he's 3 of 13. So he's averaging out at 26% from the field in the tournament so far. But he's also averaging nearly 14 assists per game. So like you gotta take your wins and your losses where you have them. They do need him to shoot the ball better, but they also need his playmaking because UConn and because Dan Hurley puts his team in positions to succeed so much on the offensive end. Even though we were just talking about they rank below Michigan State in offensive rating on Ken Palm and everything, Dan Hurley gives you an offensive advantage on the clipboard. His sets are that good. It's like, I mean, I got to give credit to Matt Painter because he's an X and O's guys, even though his team doesn't get the job done all the time. But it's like when you watch them, you look at John Shire, you look at Hurley, they just put their guys in positions to get the job done. So if this game is close down the stretch, I know that UConn's going to be getting in advantageous positions. It's going to be on Jeremy Fears. We always talk about March is dominated by guard play. It's going to be on him to make sure that his team is responding. And, to his credit, very good season so far. Michigan State, very good season so far. So I'm not saying that they can't do it. There's just a lot of pressure on one individual, whereas UConn is more spread.
They're way more spread. I mean, don't get me wrong. Michigan State's ability to play defense makes a huge difference in this game. Like how they played against Louisville in that second round matchup was unbelievable. And if they do that to UConn, I think they're going to give some trouble to the Huskies. I think a big thing I'm looking for from UConn tonight. We know Caravan's going to be good. Well, what are we going to get from Braylon Mullins? What are we going to get from Solo Ball? I think if you get production from those two guys, the UConn wins the basketball game. Solo Ball has literally done nothing in the tournament. Braylon Mullins just started to come alive against UCLA, and he is a freshman, and he looks like a freshman out there. He can make shots on the perimeter, but he is also physically outmatched. Like it's crazy. I think Michigan State's going to give him a lot of trouble in this basketball game. So UConn's got more shot makers. I trust UConn to go on shorter stretches where they're not getting buckets. But Michigan State overall is a really physical team, and they're really good. And if they get out in transition, which they were trying to do against Louisville the entire game, which I imagine they'll try to do against UConn tonight, and they have success with it, could be a long night for UConn. But also Michigan State can't turn the ball over like they did against Louisville. If they do that, UConn will bury them.
Yeah, let me go back to what I was saying, because I don't want any Michigan State fans to feel like I'm dissing the team, saying they don't have good players. Like, Kohler and Cohen Carr and they can score the basketball, but it's more so they kind of need playmaking. They need a playmaker on the team to get them in the right positions. And after Jeremy Fears, there's basically no secondary creation for this team. The person who is second on Michigan State in assists had 1.5 per game. Like that is the drop off. You've got your leader at 9.4 per game, and then it goes to 1.5, and that guy's not even playing right now. So where is the secondary creation going to come from if the offense starts to get bogged down? That's the biggest concern if you're rolling with Michigan State. But to be fair, once again, Michigan State at its best looks like an equivalent, if not superior team to UConn. This line has been flipping back and forth, and they are just as good defensively. Either one of these teams can have their day.
I mean, I think Carson Cooper sucks for Michigan State. I think he's genuinely pot garbage. I think Kohler's their second leading scorer. He's a senior, but
he's not very impressive, but he has the numbers.
Like he made some threes against Louisville too, which were nice, but I don't think he's that good. My biggest fear though overall is, and Kohler also too, he kind of looks like the fourth grade boy haircut. Is that like up with the gel in the front? I noticed that when we were watching the last game, but my fear is UConn is just Terrace Reed. Like that is it down low. Like Michigan State can really win the paint against UConn because of these guys' size. I'm not saying they're going to score 1 million points, but I think they can have success on the offensive glass. And if they do that, it's just another thing that swings it in favor of Michigan State. Part of me thinks UConn's going to blow them off the floor. Like I really do. But there's also a route to victory for Michigan State. So it's a hard game to pick.
It is, and it's because, like I said at the end of what I was just my last comment, either team can have their day, and there's some times where you have no real rhyme or reason to say this is why they will have their day. Like if this game goes this way, if this happens, UConn can definitely win, and you can't argue it. Same thing with Michigan State. If this happens, they're going to win, and you can't argue it. So you just got to go with your gut feeling, I guess. And my gut feeling, Tanner, I got Michigan State moving on.
What's the score?
I think it's going to be, I'll say 71-67.
I think that's a fair score. And when UConn beat UCLA too, and they had it going, the UCLA's best player was not even on the floor, which is another concern for UConn. So UConn's had a pretty easy path so far to getting to where they had to go. Outside of that first game was a little rough for them, even though they should have dominated Furman. It took them a little while to pull away. I will take the UConn Huskies. I picked UConn in the other video, so I need to pick them again. But I think there's a route for Michigan State to victory here. I mean, this could be Izzo's swan song too.
Yeah.
So, you got a chance to win this game, knock off Duke potentially, or St. John's. But I want to see UConn St. John's again, so I'm going to go UConn.
On to the worst game on the board, worst game in the Elite Eight, Tennessee, Iowa State. I don't know where you stand on this. I did my whole demonstration thing for Alabama, Michigan with the fake broom and everything. This genuinely, I don't think these teams belong on the same court. I'm sorry. I get Tennessee as a 6 seed, which, I mean, it's not a 1 seed, but it's not like they had a bad year. So sorry, any Volunteer fans out there watching this video. I think this is just leagues. I think Iowa State better on offense, better on defense. Their coach doesn't have massive choking problems. Nate Ament is Tennessee's best player, and he was so unimpressive against UVA. Don't have that problem with Iowa State. I think they smoke these boys.
Yeah, I would say Iowa State blows Tennessee off the floor. Not blows them off the floor, but beats them comfortably. I think it's going to be that like 5 to 7 point range throughout most of the game. I think Iowa State's going to maintain that lead, and they find a way to beat Tennessee. Tennessee, really good story right now. Same thing with a Texas from last night. Really good story. Found a way to win a few games. I think the run ends here, but I probably would have said the same thing about Iowa and Nebraska. I thought Iowa was going to win the game yesterday, but they've kept the run going. So you never know what's going to happen here. But I do think Iowa State is just the overall better team. So I will lean towards the Cyclones. I will not be watching this game that much. I do have a little vested interest because I have under 5.5 for my lowest Final Four seeds. So I need Tennessee to lose, and I need Iowa to eventually lose tomorrow to cash the bet. But I will be paying more attention to UConn and Michigan State.
5.5. That's a good. Did you get that for a fair price?
Yeah, minus 150.
That's a good number.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, it's coming down to the wire. I never thought Iowa would be in this position. And really, they shouldn't have been. That could screw me. Like Iowa could easily win that game, and then we're in trouble because they knocked off Florida and they got the momentum and all that. But yeah, I felt good about that. And right after I bet it, it dropped down to 4.5. So honestly, 4.5 is a great number too, because the only 5 seed remaining is the Johnnies, I believe, right?
Yep.
Right. So that was a good number too. So yeah, I think it'll hit, but you don't know, because I'm worried about the Big Ten Iowa-Illinois matchup, which we will talk about here in a little bit.
Well, if you guys are enjoying the content, make sure you hit the like on this video. It's the number one way you can support us. Subscribe so you never miss out on our future uploads. Tanner and I are going to be breaking down the Final Four, the Elite Eight, championship, all that. So make sure you guys are around. Hit that subscribe button.